My name is Lisa Shelton, and I'm from the town of Marshall, which is in Madison County, county in western North Carolina. I work for John Queen at John Queen Farms, and I now live in Haywood County. At a young age, I was always interested in agriculture. Grew up in an agricultural community. My grandfather always had just a small farm with cows and chickens, and I've always enjoyed livestock. So on the way to apply for a job after school, after I graduated from high school, I went to Asheville to apply for a job. And on the way, we got to passing cattle trucks on the way to Asheville. That was when I found out from my grandfather that there was a stockyard in Asheville. So I went to Asheville and was very intrigued with the sale barn, and a lot of the guys, older folks that worked there in the barn, were my granddaddy's friends. So while John was in the sale ring clerking, I would get down in the barn and work while he knew I wasn't in the barn, because he didn't want me in the barn because no female had ever been hands-on in the sale barn before. So when I would see him coming out of the clerk from clerking, I would get out of the sale barn so he wouldn't know I was in there. So I'd done this for a long time, on and off, and then finally one day they had a big run. It was in September and probably had 1,800 head of cattle. So he had called on that I'd been working in the sale barn, and he came out there and he told me that he would give me a job. He says, there's going to be a few circumstances. He said, one, that I find out you're not 18 years old. He says, you're out of here. And he said, the next thing is that when I ask you to do something I'd ask one of these men to do and you tell me you can't do it, you're gone, you're history. My job is to manage the farm. We turn out stocker cattle. We graze probably 550 to 600 head of stocker cattle. And we also have a video sale we operate, which is Southeast Livestock Exchange. We run a livestock market on Mondays, which is the WNC Regional Livestock Center. So my entire life revolves around the cow. When we start taking in calves for our stocker operation, so basically our cattle already started. We try to get calves from off of farms, video sales, load lots of cattle that have already been through a vaccination protocol. My biggest thing is to get those calves in, get them gentled down, because we will have some that are more gentle than others. Get them used to me, get them used to a four-wheeler, because when we turn them out, I've got to be able to catch them. So that's one of the key things. We do go ahead and revaccinate the calves when we get them in, knowing that possibly that they have had vaccination beforehand, but we still go ahead and revaccinate them, deworm them, implant them, do everything on turnout that we feel that we need to. The protocol that we use on our grazing cattle on turnout is we use a Zoetis protocol. Typically we do a Boveshield Gold 5 or Boveshield Gold 1 shot, depending on the source of the cattle. We'll give them Ultra Choice 7. We do deworm with long range dewormer. We implant with Revlor G. We also give them, drench them with a Valvazin white wormer. And then fly tags, that's real important. And on turnout out on grass, we do feed Free Choice mineral with rumensin. Vigor Tone product is what we use. When we get the calves in here at the farm, when they first come in, we've got a couple of lots that we keep them on, and so they stay there usually just overnight, a couple days on the lots, concrete lots, where I can kind of get them used to the water, and we get plenty of hay in them, and so let them stand overnight, and then basically turn them out within a day or so, into the paddocks here at the farm. Here at the farm we've probably got about 15 paddocks, and they vary in size. So from, we got 5-acre paddocks up to 9-acre paddocks. The grazing management here at Jonquing Farms, the main farm where we take the cattle in, we do rotational graze. We do have a pretty high, fescue. Our grass is mostly fescue, but we do have lots of orchard grasses, a lot of clover. So we don't want to condone our fescue. We try our best to manage it the best we can because that's what we got to work with, and we do a pretty good job with it. So Cataloochee Ranch is a pretty important part of Haywood County. I feel it was bought by the Alexander family in like 1934 by Tom Alexander. His main goal was to preserve the mountain land, which he loved. He's actually from North Georgia, which he loved, and he raised his family on the mountain. So they put a lot of that property in the conservation easement, so it will not be developed. It is a guest ranch. You can go to stay for one night, weekends. You can also go up to have lunch or supper, but it is a guest ranch. But they've always focused on agriculture as their background. So right now we're at the Cataloochee Ranch, and the elevation here is 5540. You're looking around between 11 and 1,200 acres of this property. Typically we graze around 180 to 200 calves yearly. Grass is kind of late coming up here because of the elevation, so we get turned out around May the 10th, and we try to take them up the 1st of September before the buckeyes start falling, because they can be toxic to cattle. We've grazed this since I think they sold the cows in '77 here. Mr. Tom Alexander did, and so we've grazed this since about 1980. So Mr. Tom had cows and calves up here, and he ran them for most all the entire time that they've had the ranch. So the place has always been in agriculture use. But what we're sitting on now is actually in the Southern Appalachian Highlands Conservancy. They put in a conservancy, which is good. It'll preserve our mountains. No buildings or anything can be built on this piece of property. As far as the main farm goes and being able to check cattle here, like I said, I can have everything moved and checked here within, an hour. It takes, 30 minutes to get to Cataloochee on a very curvy road. I would say that by the time we go to Cataloochee to check cattle, you're looking at, if we get there at 6:30, we would be off at 11 o'clock, if we're lucky, if there's no cattle out and everything's in the pasture. So it's just as far as a time frame, these mountain pastures, it takes a lot longer to get around and check cattle on the mountain pastures. Cattle handling to me is like, it's my thing. I'm really interested in cattle, how they move. If I could spend a few days following Temple around, would be like my dream couple of days. I feel good when somebody comes to me at the sale barn and says, I really appreciate how you handle cattle, or they tell me that I do a good job. That does me, that's what I like to hear. I really work hard to handle cattle and again be smarter than the cow. I don't necessarily have to move cattle fast. It makes me feel good when I can outsmart one and I can get it to do what I want it to do. That's a challenge, but I really like to figure out the best way to move them. So I do use a four-wheeler, but I don't use a four-wheeler to chase them. I do try to utilize their flight zones, and their curiosity is another good way to trick them. I practice my cow trickery, I say. As far as the vaccinations and the welfare of the cattle, and I'd say if you'll do your little jobs, your big jobs will get done. One of my favorite sayings, and I will Give credit where credit deserved was from Dr. Glenn Rogers, which says, I'm a true believer in good management does not come in a syringe. I love the cattle industry. I don't know that it's something it came to me, I didn't go to it. It kind of just something that fell in my lap, and it was the right thing that happened to me. For one thing, I love cows. I absolutely love cows. I say my motto is I love cows and anything with a motor. I don't do horses, but I love the cattle, and I just love the people in the industry, and it has really been just an unbelievable ride.